Wallace, he's opted in. He's going to play in the bowl game.
Oh, he's going to play.
Yes, he's going to, because that was an article I just was able to pull up maybe like an hour or so ago. It's confirmed that he will be a part of the game. And Quincy Roche will be at the game. Jalen Phillips will not. So one of each will be playing in this game. So Chuba Hubbard is going to be out for the Oak State Cowboys, and Jalen Phillips is going to be out for the Miami Hurricanes. But Quincy Roche will be in for the Miami Hurricanes, and Wallace will be in for the Cowboys. So that's good. If I were to talk about some of Oak State's pretty good positives, they can get after the QB. I mean, their front is tenacious. They got a number 7, and I apologize, my brother. I'm not going to try to butcher your name. This man can rush the passer. He can cover. He can big inch. He can open field tackle. He's also their leader. So I'm very, very excited to see what Coach Britt Lashley is going to do to combat defense, their linebacker at number 7. He could stand up. I've seen him put his hand in the dirt and come off the edge. And a true linebacker stands as a middle. I mean, all over the field, 7 is big time for them on that side of the ball.
I know what name you're talking about. I haven't even tried to pronounce it because I would have to hear it pronounced a few times and then try to figure it out. But to look at it looks like the alphabet, basically. It goes on forever.
Yeah, and for all I know, Mark, if I was more in tune with my homeland, my last name would probably be something closer to that, as opposed to what happened when, we were brought here. It's a little different. Anyway, as far as Oak State, they're very aggressive in their front. And yes, I've seen 32 make some plays. It's another one of their linebackers. Last name Ford is a defensive lineman for them who can get after. He leads them in sacks right now with 4.5. So they're very diverse in their fronts and aggressive. Their secondary is it's a little shaky from here and there. But in order to even try to exploit that secondary, you got to deal with the front. And our offensive line has been up and down. Hopefully the chemistry of this offensive line is starting to play together. And hopefully COVID-19 has not influenced either side to where we would be able to have a real bowl game as far as everybody being healthy enough to be on the field and contribute to the team for both Oak State and Miami, because I know they had a little bit of issues throughout the season, and so have I. Something that you can't – so have I. So have we. It's something that we can't avoid with the pandemic, a worldwide pandemic. Like, you don't know what's going to happen when it comes to COVID. So hopefully our offensive line all was healthy and going to be able to play, because they're going to have their work cut out for them. Okay, going to have a really, really tough time, because what happens with Oak State is sometimes they have something, we call it amoeba, where people are they're walking around the line of scrimmage. So you don't know exactly what gap they're going to go in before, because most time you're in a stance, and of course you have whatever gap is usually right in front of you. But if you get people who are all standing up and they're moving around, you have to make sure that the communication of what gap you're responsible for on the offensive line is understood. Because yes, the linebacker who's right in the A gap may be looping all around to the C for a contain rush. Well, if I'm looking at a player instead of understanding that I have the C gap as an offensive lineman, then that's a big issue. And now I'm stepping inside to a defensive end who pulled me in, and now the linebacker loops around and gets the sack because I wasn't doing my job at the highest level, because that was my job as C gap. So that's something that Oak State does very well. Got to make sure our communication is up to par at offensive line. A place where we can really exploit their issues is edge rush. Okay? They have some of the same offensive line issues that we do. Their O-line is a bit, it's good enough. I mean, it's a Big 12, so they're usually really good at pass blocking. And for Chuba Hubbard, they were really good at run blocking, but he's big time either way you cut it. But his backup is very, very similar in Desmond Jordan, who had 93 carries for 526 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he's only 1 touchdown less than Chuba Hubbard, and only, a couple, I think it's like 100 rushing yards less than him. So they had a very split carry kind of thing going at the running back position anyway. And a backup to him, L.D. Brown, has 70 carries for 395 yards and a touchdown also. So we got to be very careful with these two backs. And linebacker has been an issue all season. So I think that's going to be a check mark in Oak State as far as their run game versus us in our run stop ability, especially what we just put on film versus North Carolina. Hopefully we were able to change some of those issues within the 2 weeks that we have had off. Because you put it on film and everyone's going to take that and add it to their game plan to see if you figured it out by any happens chance. And another thing that happens, Mark, is in these bowl games with all this time off, some coaches are not as keen to make sure they go over ball handling in a lot of their drills, okay? And because the players haven't had gone full speed in a while, take you back to 2016, West Virginia's driving on us, and Chad Thomas comes and just plucks the ball out of the West Virginia's QB. And the first thing that the commentator said was, yeah, they probably haven't done a lot of ball carrier drills because it's hard to even just walk through those drills or even go 70%. It's not going to be compared to the speed and tenacity that would happen in a game. So I think if we can get the football a couple of times and give our offense more opportunities with the ball, I think Miami would be in really, really, really good hands if we could force a couple of turnovers.
It would be interesting to look at this team and their rushing offense play for play, because as soon as you mention those top three backs, and of course Chuba Hubbard not playing, you mention this from time to time, there are stats, and then there are stats, and there is the ability that you need to watch the teams play and interpret the stats, because some stats, boom, they're dead on. That's what that is. That guy's the best at this. He's got the most touchdown passes. You know what? He is the best. There are most stats that there's a lot of truth to, and then there's a lot of context that you have to understand the way that offense works. You know, whether the pass protection's excellent or the pass protection's horrible or all the things. It's a team game. It's a team game. And we look at Chuba Hubbard and we look at the other two backs. You mentioned Brown and Jordan, who are averaging just about a yard per carry more than he is. And I don't know that Oklahoma State played a lot of garbage time this year, because what happens from time to time is you got a number one back who plays 3 quarters for a really good team in most of their wins. And then the backup plays against the second and third teamers when it's 42-7 in the fourth quarter and rings up some big yardage. They played all conference games, and the one non-conference game they played was against Tulsa. They trailed by 9 points in the fourth quarter. They played almost all very competitive games. That I don't know that doesn't tell us that the two backups played pretty well.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And at this point, the University of Miami, even that's a big delusion that a lot of teams have, or fans. I wouldn't say that the players and the coaches really reflect their mindset reflects the fans either, or vice versa. But fans think that, oh, well, these people suck, so we should just line up and kick their butts. No, it doesn't work like that. You know, college football has the parity at the highest level is not there, but there's quality coaching all the way across college football, you know, all the way down to some of the NAIA levels. Okay. So there's going to be a very big attention to detail, I'm hoping, from our staff for this game, because, you know, it's been a lot of talks about Gundy and the way that he is a very tenacious coach. I do not think by any means if they had a chance to blow us out by 30 that they would pull back because they love the year. No, they would run us a new one if we don't come up and show out and show up in this game. I think we definitely have the ability to. You know, a lot of us are not feeling that we're going to win this game because of the simple fact that we don't know the mindset of this team after the way you end the season like the way we did versus UNC. That's why I'm happy that we're playing a team like Oak State, who is beatable, but will also challenge you. So therefore, you don't get too comfortable because they gave you a easy game, or you don't get too down on yourself because you pulled a really solid team that's pushing the elite like a Florida or maybe a Texas A&M that you just feel defeated going into the game. You are lining up against a team who is eerily similar in a lot of ways to either UNC or you know, which is maybe tier 2, tier 3, B plus programs right now. So therefore, there's nothing to relax on. There's nothing to lean on. There's nothing to feel like, oh, we're just going to win this game because we're Miami. No, you got to come and show up because they're going to be well coached. They got a couple of really good athletes, and they have a wide receiver who will go bananas on us if we do not make sure we know where we are supposed to freaking be and cover this man. That's a couple of the matchups that we'll get into on the next segment.
One thing here, when you talk about looking at Oklahoma State, are there any teams that Miami's played in the ACC this year that you could compare Oklahoma State to? Maybe they're better than, but style of play, approach.
Okay, I would say NC State is a very good comparison. Of course, Oak State's way better than NC State, but I would say, in my opinion, I think that they're very similar in the way that they approach things. They're balanced also offensively, pretty aggressive defensively. So, but you can attack them in the secondary if you happen to be able to block their front long enough. Then your matchups at wide receiver versus their corners, your matchup at tight end versus maybe a safety can be a feather in your hat offensively for the Miami Hurricanes. I think the same thing about Oak State. If we are able to get good pass protection, whether a back is able to hold off 7 or hold off 4 and chip them, and give De'Aaron King some time to either escape the pocket or be mobile but still look downfield, I think we can really attack some of their corners in a couple. And I think we can win the wide receiver versus DB battle. I just honestly feel that way. We would have an issue if they keep getting to De'Aaron King, and now those corners and safeties can be aggressive and come down on maybe a check down or come down on the screen because they know we're trying to get rid of the ball fast. And now we end up throwing an interception or a tip ball in the air for a pick 6 or something like that. So I'm hoping, because they play off in the secondary because they're so aggressive in the front. So they're playing off in the secondary. So maybe a curl, an out, a slant, a now route. And hopefully we can shake and bake and get up the football field, Mike Harley, Mark Pope style. Then we can start to force them to come up. When you do that, now you go max protection and you take your shot. So that's what I'm hoping that would maybe a player or two, maybe I'm foreseeing into the future a little bit, just a tad bit of what Coach Rick Lashley would do. Heck, maybe even you get your run game going mixed with the short area passing game going. Pull those safeties up too, and now you got to play action Brevin Jordan down the seam. And it sounds a lot simpler with me just sitting here talking to you. I'm not in the war room putting together a real game plan. But in my eyes, these are some of the things I think that we can do to help us win on our side.
This game seems to be more important to Miami than Oklahoma State. I'm not talking about the players and going to talk to the players. That's all between their ears and in their hearts of how much motivation and incentive they have. I'm not making that judgment call and never will, never have before. Just from a program standpoint, meaning that, and I'm not saying that Miami couldn't go out, lose by 5 touchdowns, regroup, spring practice, workouts, it all starts over, and then they go to work next year and could have a great season. Not saying that this bowl game is going to be the ruin of one program and going to be the launching point of greatness for the next program. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. What I'm saying is Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy have been the same thing that they've been for 15 years. Mm-hmm. He's going 8-4 and 9-3 almost every year. If you go down through, they are a very consistent program. They're not excellent. They're not elite. They're way above marginal or mediocre. They're very good. They are a top 20-ish program. They're right in that range between 15 and 25. And they do it consistently. They're not going 11-1 one year and 5-7 the next year. And they've had a few peak seasons. They played a BCS bowl game against Stanford, but that's been about 10 years ago. And that's been the only time that they've reached that level of play. They're playing in these kind of bowl games most years after going 8-4 or 9-3. That's pretty much what they do. And they finish around 15th to 20th in the country most years. So they're not going to change. They're going to take the loss to Miami or the win against Miami and pretty much just going to keep on doing what they're doing.
Absolutely.
This seems to be more pivotal for Miami for a couple different reasons. Younger head coach, first head coaching job, the program's at a place where this is what we saw this year. We saw them play a list of teams, like we've talked about many times, that they were decidedly better than. They sleptwalked through the games. They barely won them. They played one elite team. They got housed. They played one team that was supposed to be on their level. They got housed. Now they're playing the only other team they're going to see that's supposed to be pretty much right on their level. What are they going to do with that opportunity? Oklahoma State, they played Texas. They played, okay, Oklahoma took them to the cleaners pretty well. It wasn't like a butt kicking from the first series, but they extended the lead. Boom, 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 41-13. They got outclassed significantly. But Oklahoma pretty much just got on a roll late in the season. They played Texas. They played Iowa State. They played TCU. Those would be the three teams that would be in their classification, right? And they didn't play like a game that there was no big aberration. They didn't kill any of them. They didn't get killed by any of them. They pretty much seem like a team that's going to show up and give you what they give you pretty consistently. You know, they beat Iowa State, a team that took Oklahoma to the wire in the Big 12 championship game and beat Oklahoma earlier in the season. Right. They beat Iowa State. They outgained Texas like 3-1, lost the game. And then the TCU tape that you reviewed where they lost to a TCU team that went 6-4. They seem like they're going to pretty consistently deliver a top 25 kind of performance, where Miami's more like.
And that's 100% fact. The issue between the two is you're looking at a football team and then you're looking at a program. Those are two different things, because consistency is a part of something that you just do. If you're sporadic and you're up and down, that means that there isn't consistency in your program and how you approach things. Oklahoma State's going to show up and play football because that's just what happens to be what we're doing today. That's just how it is. You come here, you play football. In order to be good at football, you got weights, you got film. Like, there's just things that you do at Oak State and how Coach Gundy is running his program. Also, Coach Gundy has gone through all these different staff changes, and he is kind of the person that kind of foresees a coach before they ascend to this big-time level. They usually start out at Oak State in some shape, form, or fashion, and then go on to do really well. So he's not only a good foreseer of talent on the football field, he's a good foreseer of coaching staff and coaches on the sideline. When it comes to coaching, it's a huge feather in the cap for Oak State. The only people I think that are solid enough on our staff is maybe Coach Ray Lashley and his offensive side. Defensively, God, no. Mm-mm. So that's why I'm extremely nervous. I don't know which Miami Hurricanes team is going to show up. I don't know if we're going to tackle. I don't know if we're going to be motivated. Like, all these issues I genuinely have. And people may call the Big 12 soft or whatever. They play good football. They got some really good coaches who know how to exploit defense, because you got to understand, in their conference, you got to score points to win. We've had issues scoring points. And we've also had some issues stopping people from scoring points. So this will be more of a Big 12 type of game. They may feel right at home. All right, we'll drag them into a shootout. And then I also, like I spoke with you about before, TCU is very, very similar to Miami defensively. But that game was very close. It had a couple turnovers. Oak State even had a couple of defensive scores to kind of keep up in that game, even though it was a loss. I don't know, Mark. I just don't know. Because, if you're telling me that Blake Baker and his defensive staff is going to come out and give me the NC State performance, are we going to be able to hang with them and keep scoring? It keeps going and keeps going and keeps going because we're going to give up a whole bunch of points? Or are you going to tell me this is going to be one of those Vatek type games to where it's really close and it's down to 2 or 3 big plays? Well, we're keen to giving up big plays defensively. And if you figure us out on offense, I don't know if we're keen to do them if we're playing the equally relevant team. So that's where my issues lie with us moving forward in this Oak State game, is because I could sit here and go down the line of, this matchup and that matchup. The main thing is who's going to have the good game plan, execute it to the highest level, and which team is going to simply want it more. And who's going to lay down? Because, we're going to give up points. And I don't think that this team has a quitting mentality. But if you're not being coached up right, and if you're not being put in position, it makes it a lot easier for young men to say, F you kind of thing. Or, just wave their hand at you and just go out there and lollygag. But if they know that we put a good game plan, it's working out in front of us, we're really giving a great effort here. I can't wait to see where this is going to go. We're going to see. Taking away someone's number one wide receiver or even their number one threat. Sometimes their number one threat could be a tight end. Sometimes the number one threat could be the running game. It's a lot bigger to be able to do that against the running game because now I make you one-dimensional because you can't run football. But if you can take away one big-time player, the issue that can start to lean is now just my backside corner falling asleep over there. Because we're so focused on this side over here, you got to make sure you're on keen on that backside because it's probably yo-yo coverage. That means you're on your own backside, because we probably have a safety leaning that way. Miami tries to maintain this too high look at all times. So I don't really see Coach Manny Diaz and his scheme doing something like that because they don't. He's very stubborn in his approach. So he's like, this is how we do things, and this is just how it's going to be, as opposed to making a game plan to fit who we're playing. That's just who he is as a coach. Some coaches are like that. But if you are able to do that, you frustrate the other offense also, because usually their game plan is to feed it to the best player on the field. Where if you have, let's say you had a Derek Stingley who could come in and take him away in one-on-one coverage. That's different. There's two ways of method to do something like that at wide receiver. You can take him away with, of course, man-to-man over top safety help and probably some underneath the linebacker help. So you really kind of have three people to that side really helping against that one person. Or if you have a corner who is just that nice enough to where you can go lock down man coverage on that one side, and now everybody else don't have to worry about that side of the field because he has them handled. So it's kind of a two-way street as to how you can do it. But it's very tough for us to do that, especially at defensive back with our corners as in DJ Ivy. And maybe Corey Couch could do it, but that's another one of the matchups I'm terrified of, Mark, is DJ Ivy versus Tyler Wallace. That's not good. That's like ESPN-worthy stuff where he's just going to make plays all up and down the field and make us look really bad. So I'm hoping that we figure something out. I don't know if we put Bubba Bowden in that corner. Corey Couch goes over and goes up against him.
You pretty much know what you're going to get out of De'Ara King. Spencer Sanders, he's hit or miss. He's talented, but he's pretty sporadic.
He might be, Mark. But I'll take you back to Wisconsin 2017, a game I was at.
Okay, yeah.
I wasn't on here a lot. I wasn't on yet. I don't even think I was doing. Was I doing YouTube in 17? Probably not. I think 18 is when I started.
Yeah.
I remember being in one of the viewers in here and listening to Cam Underwood talk ad nauseum about how Horny Brooks sucked and all we got to do is get to him. And he comes out and has a world game against us, magically making all these throws. The guy who was the defensive coordinator then is our head coach and still basically runs and calls our defense now. Okay, so what that leaves things to happen is if we can't get the pass rush, we are going to be in trouble. We must get after their QB. And we're losing one of the best in college football to do it because he's preparing himself for the NFL draft. So Jalen Phillips, a first-round conversation player right now. I don't want to throw that tag on him just yet because I don't know. But it just talks about him being like the number 1 or 2 defense end in the country right now. That's just what the NFL draft says. Mel Kiper says that, not Holloway. That's Mel Kiper. Anyway, Quincy Roche is actually up there as one of the best 3-4 outside linebackers also. Now the question is, can the person opposite of him, because now Oak State can say, all right, let's just double and triple team 2. Can Nesta Silvera give me some rush up the middle? Can I get something from any other defensive tackle next to him, not named Harrison Hunt? Can I get something from the backside defensive end in a Cam Williams or Jabari Harvey to help us out? And if we're able to rally to the football and tackle, then we can put them in third and long situations. Hopefully we don't blitz every third down, Coach Manny Diaz. And we just let our front 4 go after the QB and see if we can get in there something. Oh, they say Wallace is only 6 foot 6'1".
6 foot 6'1".
Yeah,
okay.
Let me make sure. Let me verify. Somebody in the comment section said that. Oh, give me 1 second.
Yeah. I've seen him play a handful of times. I'm not going to say that I really.
Yeah, he's 6 foot 190.
Okay.
All right. So that's not. That's still a big issue with speed. We have very bad speed at corner. So we got safeties that play corner for us, unless their name is Corey Couch. So. Oh wow. You could tell I was watching film. It starts playing in the middle.
There it is, yeah. Get your ad in there. I was certainly not the guy here dissing on Alex Hornibrook myself. I would have never touted him as, the second coming of Russell Wilson at Wisconsin by any stretch. But to me, there was a difference between a guy putting up big numbers and a guy not being capable. He was spending most of his time handing the ball to Jonathan Taylor. And those 11 for 17, 115-yard passing days didn't look impressive, but that's pretty much what he was asked to do.
And if you have a coach that can break it down to you, hey, guess what? They don't play the football. So we're going to throw a whole bunch of back shoulder fades because they don't know how to turn around and look for the football. So if you just put it in this spot, they won't look for it. So they'll be waving their hand like a middle schooler instead of turning around and looking at the football and catching it. So just throw it in that spot, and I promise you they won't catch it. What happens? He places the ball in a spot, and they go crazy in the passing game, something they had never done before. But everybody swears that Coach Manny Diaz was just elite defensive coordinator.
I always like to know about those guys, Wholesome One, as you well know, who are on the verge. Who are those young players that you think might get a little bit more time in this game? And that's another thing that can't be accounted for. How are teams going to approach it? And when I mean teams, I don't mean the players on the field. I mean the coaching staffs in regards to just, hey, we want to win, but we're going to approach it this way. We want to see him, and we want to see him, and we want to see him more than we've seen him this season versus just, hey, this is a regular game. We're playing full throttle. Hey, we got a senior in that position. They're going to play the entire game. Regardless of what the coaching staff, how they approach it, who are some of those players that you want to see a little bit more out of for 2021?
I think we'll see a little bit at linebacker. I think we'll see some. A wrinkle. Mark, we haven't talked about this. At least I haven't brought it up. A wrinkle that Coach Manny Diaz has added was the fact that 53 is being moved to defensive end. So he won't be playing linebacker. I have been screaming for a very, very long time, Mark, that he needs to put his hand in the dirt if he wants to play at the next level or be a very, very good college football player. Because I think he can do it. He doesn't have the speed as a linebacker. And he also has been, I don't even think he's been coached up well enough because he was very athletic coming out of high school, but his technique was a little And when you have young men like that, you need big-time coaches to help them through to get over the hump. We don't have that. So I think 53 playing defensive end is going to be pretty big. What I hope is that they just don't start him at defensive end just because. I would be very remiss to know that we just put 53 out there because he's a super senior. To start over Jabari Harvey or Cam Williams, who has been at defensive end and has given you some production off of the edge for you this season. Another thing I would like to see is a little bit more of now you move 53 out of there. What that allows is number 6, Sam Brooks, number 11, Corey Flagg, number 18, Tyreek Austin Cave. You allow those young, fiery linebackers to get more snaps on the football field. So I'm really liking to see that. I would love to see Corey Couch keep pushing. Very sad to know what happened with Al Blaze Jr. in his condition after catching COVID and having to sit out the rest of the season due to some lung issues. So that's very kind of sad, terrifying, life-threatening type of stuff. So got to be careful with that. Maybe a little bit more of Corey Couch and Marcus Clark would be big for us, the nickel corners, and putting some more athleticism out there on the field, because what we've been doing lately is not it. But, Mark, out of all of that, I want to see us show that we can stop the run. Because this Oak State team, their QB isn't that big-time guy. So they're going to come up in line and try to run at you, especially because you just put on film that you couldn't stop some basic runs. So if we can rally to the football defensively and get in our proper gaps, not backdoor plays, shoot the proper gap, open field tackle. If we can get that done, especially on the other side of the line of scrimmage, we can worry about all that other stuff afterward. The most important thing is, can we stop the run right now? That's where my thing is. So these young linebackers is where I'm excited to see them contribute to the team. And I want to see, there's a lot of talks about some of these young men going to the next level, or, thinking about going to the next level. Can you give me a complete game? Bubba, I love you, but can we tackle? Okay, Amari Carter, I'm done with you, but can we tackle for one of your last games, please? Bubba, not Bubba. Offensively, Brevin Jordan, give me some remnants of what you showed in a blowout and an actual competitive game. Can you show me that? Not give me 150 yards in a blowout game where we lose about 40. Okay, can you show me that when you're the main focus offensively to a certain extent in certain areas of the field, and you still make plays? I'm not saying you got to give me a David Njoku performance that like he did versus West Virginia, which put us over the hump in his tight end play. But give me something. So, yes, Mark, I am excited to see a couple of the young players get opportunities. But I really want to see if this coaching staff and if these players were able to put North Carolina behind them mentally, but can take in and take from that game some of the holes that have been in this defense for years and fix it. That's what I'm hoping for.
To their credit, this team did come back and play well in the fourth quarter in those tight games. Now, whether they should have been in those kind of games in the first place, we've talked about, and they shouldn't have been against the likes of teams that were winning 4 and 5 games and are marginal top 50 kind of teams like Virginia Tech and Virginia and so forth and so on. We know the teams in the list, and NC State would be one of them. Now, NC State's on the higher end of that list of teams I was giving, but still, for them to be down, Miami down 10 in the fourth quarter, it wasn't pretty leading up to that point. But to Miami's credit, they did pull these games out, being in a dogfight, 25-24 game against Virginia Tech, whatever that final turned out to be against NC State. I think it was 44-41. And they did play well down the stretch to get it done. Did get the stops on defense, did make the plays on offense. Is the problem the Miami defensive scheme, or the fact that the defensive scheme requires higher level talent than our current talent can perform?
The latter. That's what it is. This Coach Diaz defense, whether you want to call it, the 4-3 attack or the 4-2-5 that Coach Blake Baker taught him, it requires you to have dang near elite players for it to work at the highest level that you want it to work. Okay, and yes, at Miami, you're probably going to be able to bring in, if you recruit right and you're winning some pretty good games, but you don't want to build a program on needing talent for stuff to work. That just doesn't make any sense. You want to build a program on, heck, I fit my scheme to my players. Maybe I don't have the same defensive ends and defensive tackles that I had before. So maybe we need to go a little bit more gap sound. You don't have to go too gapping, but maybe we need to be a little bit more gap sound in our approach in order to get things to work out, because we're just not there this year type of thing. But, Mark, we've been having this debate for however long I've been on here with you. Talent versus coaching, talent versus coaching, talent. Miami's had some pretty good talent. Miami's not elite talent. So when people say talent has never been a problem, that's not true. Okay, Miami ain't pulling out the number one offensive tackle, number one offensive guard, number one QB, number one running back. No. That's not how that works. We have some pretty good recruits, absolutely. And every now and again, we'll get a 5-star. Every now and again, we'll get a staunch 5-star, a high 4-star that helps the program immediately. But what happens when that young man is the same player the day he walked in, the day he walks out? That means that you're not developing in the program, and we're just leaning on the fact that he's faster than the corners in the Coastal, Stacey Cody. We're leaning on the fact that he is such a high football IQ and knows how to track the ball, so we just let him go out there and play and do his thing, Tracy Howard. And these players turn out to be undrafted or 6th, 7th round draft picks out the league in 2 or 3 years because they went to a program that didn't give them back the right stuff. They just like, oh, no, you're good, bro. That's all right. You're just like that, so it's all good. No. Teach me. Coach me, coach. Make me better, coach. Don't just tell me like, oh, yeah, you're fast, so don't even worry about it. It's like, I know we're supposed to be talking about Oak State, Mark, but there's just a lot wrong, man. And
no, this is the stuff people want to hear and need to hear.
It just bothers me, man. I hope before I depart that the right people understand the approach I'm trying to push. I'm not saying we got to be Wisconsin South, which I would love that. If we were a staunch 10, 11-win program year in and year out and built the right program. Oh, absolutely. Now, maybe not in the way that they play games. I wouldn't want to be, 2 cloud and dust offense, 2 cloud and dust defense every dang play. But in a conference like the ACC Coastal, you're going up against some pretty good coaches and solid players. But if you're Miami, you shouldn't just be pretty good coaches and solid players. You should be the cream of the crop in handling things on your side and the way that you approach things. It's a lot of issues, man. It's a lot of issues. You can't just have all these young men trust their futures to you and you give them back 5th, 6th, 7th round and praise it like it's something that's good. Oh, man, I'm the reason why Rayshawn Jenkins is in the NFL. Did you recruit Rayshawn Jenkins? No. Did you develop Rayshawn Jenkins? No. You just brought the 4-3 for him to be able to play in his senior year, but you say that you made him. That's not how that works. It's just not how that works, man. And that's just a couple examples of players that I have seen in studying this program and really going in with this program. Some of the stuff really hurts me in our approach to stuff. Okay. We have to, in a team like Oak State, Mark, I've said this to myself and I'll say it on live tonight. Going into this game, I'm hoping that we win, of course. I want the Miami Hurricanes to win. But if we want the changes that we truly want, okay, we need some people to be shown again that your schemes and your approach is not right by any means. And you are ruining players with the way that you're coaching them to do things. So like I said, I'm hoping we win the game, of course. But if some things need to happen for some people to no longer be around, I wouldn't mind it.
DB's a Gators fan asking where Miami needs to improve most on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, we're starting to bring in the offensive line size and recruits that I would like. Of course not. Like, I would love if we're bringing, the top 5 at each position, of course. But we're bringing in some pretty solid young men. So, and my approach is understanding how to use the whole field and not to get too keen on just what's happening right now. Feel the flow of the game. Of course, if we're running and we're doing well with the run game, you want to sprinkle a little pass in, of course. You don't want to go with 40 dang carries for a running back. But my view is if it's working, Okay, find other ways to keep featuring it. Because in the game, of course, if you're running the ball, they're going to start filling the box. Okay, what are some of the other ways we can get you on a little swing route? Ace jet you. Because yes, the running game is working, but now they're going to start making their adjustments to certain players. All right, so if we get this H jet, well, and that's what we've been doing to kind of pull that safety down and pull him outside of the box to where he has to cover the flats or cover this H jet. Okay, now when we do that dive, it opens up the box a little bit more. All right, we come out and look like we're in a heavy set, 2 tight ends, and then we flare our arms and go 5 wide and have linebackers have to cover our running backs or tight ends in open space. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I think Coach Riddle actually has in his repertoire that he was not able to teach in maybe 2 months total. If you add spring and training camp together, maybe we had like 2 months of on-field stuff in its totality. So there's probably a whole bunch of offense that he wants to implement that we haven't even seen yet because he hasn't had time to put it in. So I want us to be able to be more diverse in our approach and not get too simplistic in our offensive game plan. But I continue to understand that we didn't really have a spring. We had a small, watered down version of training camp. So I don't really get on Coach Red Lashley too much once I realized that he wasn't even really able to implement his whole offense. So to answer your question, for me, I want us to be more diverse in our approach to the run, more diverse into our perimeter passing game, until our intermediate, until our deep ball. I want us to be able to incorporate some of these things. But I know that Coach Red Lashley has a whole bunch he wasn't able to give out yet. I like to sit down and give an approach. There's some things that I look at as far as psychological. I understand my case, but I also want to see a little bit more steely-eyed focus. I want to see them angry with that intent to go kick somebody in the face. Because I remember I was watching the game versus Notre Dame, and they showed like a sideline view of the Canes. There was no jumping up and down. There was no screaming. They just looked like they had smelled bath salt. Like they were, it was like faces was grinning, their mouthpieces had to be shown up. They were angry at whatever was said in that locker room. There's rumors of the coach at Notre Dame. This is rumors. Like I said, rumors said of what happened. Mark Richt finding a way to play the audio of what that strength and conditioning coach from Notre Dame said when he was on our logo, when he said that these thugs can keep the turnover chain. We want rings. We want the goal on our rings. Take their will, yada, 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 that he said. And supposedly our players did not feel too keen on being called thugs. So they came out with malicious intent to show them how we play ball here in Dade County. So I like to see stuff like that because it allows you to know that there is a steely-eyed focus to get it done. And if the man has the ball in his hands, bring them down. And don't bring them down gingerly. Let him know that you're going to be here all night in your approach to it. So what I'm hoping to see is that this team is focused. And this was under a seasoned head coach in Mark Richt. We have a very emotional young head coach in Coach Manny Diaz. So I want to see his approach and how he's going to be prepared. If he's going to have that look on his face like he doesn't know what's going on, or is he going to have that very focused, pissed off look on his face too? So that's just some of the stuff that I look for. Now, if you ask me what I watch while I'm watching the game, the biggest thing I look, of course, O-line, D-line, but I want to see the initial pressure with defensive linemen. How are we firing off the ball? Are we firing off the ball engaging? Are we firing off the ball just flying up the field and swinging arms? Or do we have a plan as to how we're getting to the ball carrier, whether that's a pass rush or whether who has the ball via run game? So those are some of the things that I look for. And, I could be here all day to explain my film breakdown, but I can't do that in our time we have left. Some of the things that I key on for film. But a side note that I also keep in mind if I'm looking at skill position and wide receivers, corners, is there an immediate viewpoint of intimidation and you got people already playing off on the dang first play of the game? But if I see corners up in the grill, first play of the game, man to man with it, or at least cover two, look to it, that shows me a little bit more focus and intensity. But if I see people already off and look like they playing a little scared or nervous, it makes me a little worried for the approach of the game moving forward. Like me and you have spoken about, and anyone who truly understands this football season, the Miami Hurricanes in any quality game did not look like an 8-2 team. So we're going to be in another quality game. And I hope I'm not here with you Thursday afternoon trying to say, yeah, I told you so in a certain way. We want to see what they're going to do and just hope and pray that the team shows up.
Wholesome One, I don't want to get this wrong because a couple of people asked it in the chat. You're not into predictions, right? You're not up here making predictions, or do you?
Oh, well, we could do it. Let me know.
Because a couple of people asked for predictions. My predictions are on Patreon. The only reason I don't give them here is I like to honor the people that contribute on Patreon, and one of the perks over there is that they get my predictions. So I leave those over on Patreon. And for Lewis Papp there, thank you so much for reminding everyone. This is a very simple thing that everybody can do here. We know that you're shopping on Amazon, and I know Christmas is way over, but a lot of people are going to be looking for deals and looking for returns and doing all that sort of thing. You might as well just grab the link that we provide in the description section of any video, do your Amazon shopping using that link. It's exactly the same. You do exactly the same. Doesn't cost you any money, same shopping experience, everything. But if you use that link, you help us build the channel. I would love to hear a prediction if you got one.
Mark.
But if you don't, that's fine.
I've
never given one before.
Written down right here. I have like 4 different predictions written down because I just don't know, man. I have like Miami plays his best ball. I have Miami plays the average game. I have Coach Diaz gets out coached and fantasy. I have like 4 different versions. So to be honest with you, I'm gonna lean on us winning the game. I don't have a lot of faith in this at all, but we'll see. I'm gonna go with the Miami Hurricanes 27-20.
Okay. There it is.
As you can see on my face, I'm not the most energetic and excited about it like I was with Clemson or North Carolina. So hopefully this approach works out a lot better than both of those approaches that I had of Miami scoring 41 magical points and winning by 20. So